Joining us now is Okpe with stories trending around the world. Hello, Jenix.
Good morning, Dr. Ayoade. How was your weekend? I knew you were going to say that. How's yours?
Fine.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Good morning to do.
Morning,
How was your weekend?
I didn't hear Ojinika, so I better do the honors.
No, he did that. He
did
teased it.
Ojinika?
Yes.
Okay.
I laughed when I heard something. Rufai, good morning. How was your weekend?
Maroon again, OG.
You do love maroon.
I love maroon, yeah.
Well, all right. Good morning to you, viewers. Here are some of the stories that are trending across the globe.
In the United Kingdom, the British Broadcasting Corporation's controversial royal documentary, The Princes and the Press, has opted not to use the word Megxit in the episode airing today, November 29th, after the term was previously criticized by Prince Harry. He called it misogynistic and racist. The new episode has now been named Sussexit, and it will highlight the alleged lack of support received by the Duke and Duchess of Sussex in the royal household. In Cambodia, tributes pour in for Prince Norodom Ranariddh, former Prime Minister and the son of the late King Norodom Sihanouk, who died on Sunday, November 28th, in France. He was 77 years old. Ranariddh entered public life in 1983 when he took over leadership of the Phun Simpec, an armed resistance movement against the Vietnamese installed government. Under sports, Gianpaolo Tartaro, the surgeon who treated 22-year-old Nigerian striker Victor Osimhen after he suffered a horrendous facial injury last week when he collided with Inter Milan defender Milan Skriniar over the weekend, said Osimhen's eye came out of its socket and his face looked as if it had ended up under a press. Osimhen suffered various fractures, resulting to 6 plates and 18 screws inserted in his cheekbones. Under entertainment, legendary fashion designer Giorgio Armani received the Knight Grand Croix, decorated with Grand Cordon. It is Italy's highest civilian honor. The accolade reflects both Armani's 6-decade career in the fashion industry and his status as one of the country's leading lights across the fashion, lifestyle, and luxury sectors. Finally, tributes pour in for Louis Vuitton's artistic director and Off-White founder, Virgil Abloh, who died on Sunday from a rare form of cancer. He was 41 years old. Virgil had been battling cardiac angiosarcoma since 2019. He chose to endure his battle privately, undergoing numerous challenging treatments. He did so while helming several significant institutions that span fashion, art, and culture.
May his soul rest in peace.
Amen.
Let's begin what's trending. Travel restrictions imposed on southern African countries and the African continent by world leaders in a bid to curb the spread of the new COVID-19 variant, Omicron, which has been designated by the World Health Organization as a variant of concern because of its concerning number of mutations, has garnered mixed reactions. Well, over the weekend, Akinwumi Adesina, president of the African Development Bank, in a series of tweets, advised world leaders not to label or penalize African nations because of the new variant. Adesina, who is one of the strong advocates of equity in vaccine distribution, said that Africa is not the source of the COVID-19 pandemic and appealed for global justice, equity, and fairness in vaccine distribution. Well, in the meantime, a video of Dr. Ayoade Alakija, the co-chair of the African Union's COVID-19 Africa Vaccine Delivery Alliance, discrediting the travel ban, has gone viral. In the video clip, courtesy the BBC, the doctor said that the Omicron variant was inevitable because the world has failed to vaccinate countries equitably. Well, let's take a look.
inevitable. And may I say firstly that had the first SARS-CoV virus, the one that was first identified in China last year, originated in Africa, it is now clear that the world would have locked us away and thrown away the key. There would have been no urgency to develop vaccines because it would have been expendable. Africa would have become known as the continent of COVID. What is going on right now is inevitable. It's as a result of the world's failure to vaccinate in an equitable, urgent, and speedy manner. It is as a result of hoarding by high-income countries of the world. And quite frankly, it is unacceptable. These travel bans are based in politics and not in science. It is wrong. Why are we locking away Africa when this virus is already on 3 continents? Nobody's locking away Belgium. Nobody's locking away Israel. Why are we locking away Africa? It is wrong. And it is also time that our African leaders stand up and they find their voice. African leadership need to sit up in this moment. Our presidents need to wake up in this moment and realize that this is not business as usual. Their continent is at stake. Our lives are at stake. And we cannot allow the world to do this to us.
Oh, this video has gone viral. I'd like to take a tweet from Akinwumi Adesina before I come to you guys for our analysis. He wrote in those tweets, Africa must accelerate the manufacturing of its own vaccines and set up its own healthcare security defense system. Africa must no longer outsource health security of its 1.8 billion people to the benevolence of others. He tweeted to WHO head and all of the people concerned. But, you know, Tundu, you were telling me that the doctor was absolutely right with her comment, but she did get some backlash as well, you know, because of the fact that we need to manufacture our own vaccines and not depend on other nations.
But for me, I don't see why both positions cannot be correct. We had a respected virologist earlier as our guest on the show, Professor Tomori, venerated, not even respected, but I respectfully disagree with him. He was on that side stressing the fact that we are the ones who have dropped the ball. We have been remiss in the way we have let that side of medical research go fallow. Obviously, that is true. But while you're having your self-flagellation, your woulda, shoulda, coulda, which is a total waste of time right now, you can also address the fact, and it is a fact, of vaccine inequity in the world. You can walk and chew gum at the same time. I know you know this very well, Rufai. I really resent the fact that the veterinary vaccinations are still being produced in VOM, but human vaccinations are not. What kind of country is this? So that is true. But on the other hand, the points that she was making are also true. The case in Belgium had no contact with anybody from Africa, any traveler from Africa. The flights out of Belgium have not been stopped. Why so quick to, lock the door on Africa? It is constant. You'll recall with Ebola as well. It was like, stop all the flights from Africa. There's always this unseemly rush to tar us as this hotbed of disease, of poverty, of squalor, and it must be addressed. The idea that prejudice plays no part in this, I'm sorry, is a fallacy. And I did say right at the beginning when we're talking about our news headlines, I could not remember the expert that we had. It wasn't Professor Tomori, I definitely remember him. We had an expert on this show who completely dismissed the idea of prejudice. And I did say, when you're an expert, when you're a scientist in that rarefied field, you would, because you're trained in that way. You look at data, you don't stoop to looking at prejudice and what have you. But that is a very small percentage of the world's population. A lot of people are prejudiced, and I think this reeks of prejudice. So both can be correct.
I agree with you, both can be correct. But what would you advise to be done? I mean, that's exactly what countries
Vaccine
should do.
equity immediately.
I'm talking about the travel ban.
With regards to the travel ban, vaccine equity now, immediately, to get everybody vaccinated. And obviously, hopefully, unless we're completely, without hope at all, learn the lessons from this disaster. Like I did say, why do we have livestock being vaccinated with Nigerian produced vaccines and we cannot get it? It's actually nothing short of shameful. So you can walk and chew gum at the same time.
Right.
I mean, Tundu, I know you are very refined in your word, but I will be very dirty this morning. I'll use the racist word. It's racism. Let's call it what it is. I know you don't want to hit it on the head. I'll do it. It's racism. Let's call them out for what they are. Because to start with, this is not even from Africa. Some foreigners, ambassadors brought it into Botswana. I don't know why the Botswanan government is covering them up. Name and shame these countries that brought it in. Secondly, I'd like to make the point again. This is racism, and I'll tell you why. Recently, there was a study conducted in the UK that shows that, yes, you can actually be skin biased when it comes to science and medical equipment. You remember the oximeters, the oxygen meters that was shown to read higher for black people than for white people? Sajid Javid, Secretary of Health, is looking into that in the UK. You remember the Tuskegee trials?
Oh, gosh.
Why was it only black people, the Tuskegee syphilis trials? So it is racism at its finest, and these people don't care. I mean, they colonized us in Belgium, Congo. They said we were animals. Leopold killed millions of people. They've not accounted for those crimes. So vaccine inequity is small for them. And that's why when they tell me I don't want to use obscene words this morning, the annoying part about, yes, it's cost and scale. Botswana can pay $29 because some people paid before Botswana.
Imagine.
But why should they pay that? And we're talking about vaccine equity around the world. And the West should come clean on this. I was shocked. If the tweet is true, like Piers Morgan tweeted this morning, that don't call it a South African variant. Don't call it that. And we can't continue to live in a world where there's a lot of racism. But on the flip side of it, who do we blame? We blame our own leaders that make their own selfish and personal interest more than the collective lot of a people. That's who I blame. You heard what Professor Tomori said this morning, that they have submitted a vaccine candidate. They had done the research work and all the proposals just for clinical trials, and they pushed that proposal to the Minister of Health for whatever it's worth, and nothing has been done. If we are in a sane country, if Nigeria is a sane country, the Minister of Health should be answering questions on why a vaccine candidate proposal for clinical trials is just sitting and gathering dust.
Well said, Rufai. I mean, the fact that we are not even dying in droves should be a testament. We should use that to our advantage.
Oh, I'm sorry, OJ. You asked me about travel bans.
Yes.
I didn't answer that.
Yes.
Travel bans have been proved to not be as effective as the non-pharmaceutical preventions. Travel bans can make people complacent. You might think, okay, it's all out. Like Belgium now. That case is showing community spread. Nobody was in contact with that person from Africa. So travel bans are really not the solution. I just wanted to answer that.
Well, if there's anything that has been proven with COVID-19 since 20 months ago, it's about how the politics of COVID-19 is in itself a reflection of geopolitics, the inequities in the world, and the conflict of nationalisms and sovereignties that we have seen. And so at every point, you find that nations, in trying to preserve the integrity of their own space, play politics, even with COVID-19, in the same manner in which they play politics with everything, whether it's fishing relationship in the English Channel between France and England, or some other issue in any part of the globe. And we saw the sign of this very early when President Trump almost unilaterally divided to refer to the COVID-19 when it became known as the China virus. And you know that it was on the basis of that profiling, characterization, labeling, that the World Health Organization, the WHO, stepped in and then introduced the Greek alphabet to ensure that this virus of international concern, this major international issue does not get thrown into the politics of my Mercedes is bigger than yours, my country is better than yours, and vaccine nationalism. And I think that even in the case of the Omicron, that at the end of the day, that standard has been maintained by the WHO. The WHO itself has come forward to condemn any kind of labeling. And I think that the WHO acted swiftly in attaching a Greek alphabet to it. However, before the WHO did so, South African countries, about 6 of them, 7 plus Mozambique, were already being slammed with travel restrictions. But of course, the South Africans spoke up on Saturday, Sunday. First, Naledi Pandor, the Minister of International Affairs and Cooperation, and also the President of South Africa, saying that, look, the people who are banning travels from Southern Africa, they are not following the science. What is more important is to follow the science rather than follow emotions. And I think within 72 hours later, we have seen that this particular variant is not restricted to a part of the world. It's been reported in parts of Europe.
Yes.
It's been reported in parts of Asia.
Yeah.
And I think that, the labeling cannot stick. It will not work. It's the travel and tourism industry internationally that is affected, because South Africa had to cry out because it was affected. And it's just as well that the United States has specifically singled out the South African scientists for commendation, for moving fast in doing the genome sequencing, and also for the South African government for being transparent. And another support that has been received in the spirit of African brotherhood is from the Nigerian side. The second point, beyond all of that, that has been raised by Dr. Adesina, the president of South Africa, and also by Dr. Ayoade Alakija, is the need for global solidarity, for vaccine equity, which is the big issue that we've been dealing with. The need to do intellectual property transfers, the need to relax some of those trade restrictions under WTO rules, so that countries that have capacity can also get into this manufacturing space. And I wasn't surprised about Dr. Adesina. He has been very strong. He's a very strong advocate of a vaccine equity. And I think we should just continue to stress the point made by Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala upon our assumption of office as Director General of the WTO, that nobody is safe until everyone is safe. My only worry is that in the UK now, they are giving more booster jabs to even persons above 18, when in many parts of the world, particularly in Africa, people don't even have access to the first dose. So that's where the challenge is for the international community. The WHO is making all the right noises, but this is a time that calls for leadership, because we are inevitably, inexorably in the world of COVID-19.
Well said, Dr. Abati. We'll take another story. Garba Shehu, Senior Special Assistant to President Muhammadu Buhari on Media and Publicity, was trending over the weekend after he replied to author and activist Reno Omokri, who had previously offered him $50,000 to move to Bama in Borno State without security. Well, Reno Omokri made the offer after Garba Shehu at an event last Friday said President Buhari should be commended for improving security in Nigeria. Well, in response to Reno's $50,000 offer, Garba Shehu shared a post on his Facebook page stating, "My message to anyone who made money using Dia Sharibu's sad ordeal and are flaunting it remains unchanged. This is blood money. I don't need any of it." Dr. Abati, I'm coming to you on the story. Reno, your friend.
I don't know whether I should start Monday morning commenting on Titu Tatu between Garba Shehu and Reno Omokri. But the point is this. Look, Reno Omokri was calling out Garba Shehu, with Garba Shehu saying President Muhammadu Buhari has done a lot in terms of ensuring security in Nigeria. And he offered, tongue-in-cheek, I guess, $50,000 if Garba Shehu could go to Bama unprotected and go and spend some time with terrorists.
It's just the weekend, I think.
Yeah, yeah. And then Garba Shehu says, well, somebody who had blood money, who made money, blood money, which is a very strong innuendo.
That was
and that innuendo in itself is defamatory per se. So I thought that maybe Garba Shehu will have used the opportunity to remind Reno Omokri and others of specific efforts that have been made by President Buhari in moving security forward. The discussion, the engagement could have been a bit more, intellectual, rather than this argumentum ad hominem on both sides. But you see, that's how it goes. And I always say that spokespersons don't have to respond to everything.
No.
There are certain things you ignore. Windbaggery is not an asset for a spokesperson. But I see that my good friend Garba Shehu would respond to anything.
Yes, I had to
even
ask
if the inflection on your good money doesn't sound acceptable to him. He could easily have ignored Reno Omokri.
No, I was sure he was going to respond. We've seen this by Garba Shehu a million times, Tundu Abiola.
Yeah, I agree with what you said. I just felt that response was really unnecessary. And I was always under the impression that Reno Mockery was trying to make Leah Sharibu a cause celeb so people don't forget her where she is, and not that it's blood money, especially as the fact that she's not dead. So I thought that was really unnecessary.
Absolutely. Rufai.
I mean, Dr. Batu, this is called Basque Bus. On the Twitter here, there's a name for it.
It's trending.
Basque Bus. Basque Bus, back and forth.
Stuff like this, I guess.
But amidst all of this, let's not forget that there's massive insecurity. I was talking to a friend over the weekend, and she said a couple of years ago in this country, she got into a Volkswagen Jetta, and she had a couple of her friends, and they're Caucasians, and they drove up north to Borno area. In fact, their car got spoiled on the road, and they slept in the car overnight. And that was the fun Nigeria they knew when they came into Nigeria, adventurous. But can you do that again?
You won't even think about it.
You won't even think of it. So that's to show you the insecurity going on in this country. And the fact that Garba mentioned Leah Sharibu. Let's not also forget that Leah Sharibu needs to come back to her parents.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And
Really
she's very
sad
much alive.
situation.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll take our final story if you can pull that up real quick. Well, Festus Keyamo, Minister of State for Labour and Employment, in an interview on live television, said the Lagos Judicial Panel on police brutality was illegal and a waste of time. Well, the minister, who is also a lawyer, urged other lawyers to read the Tribunal of Inquiry Act of Lagos State, which states that the governor will have the power to inquire into the conduct of any person and chieftaincy matters and any matter that would promote the good of the public. He further stated that the Lagos State government, which set up the judicial panel, lacks the power to probe the conduct of police and military officers, and by that virtue of the 1999 Constitution, only the federal government can investigate the military and the police. I mean, I think that this is quite serious.
It was NEC that sets up the panel.
I don't understand.
It wasn't the Lagos State government. It was the National Executive Council. Gave them 6 weeks. All 36 states should set up panels to look into police brutality. And they even were specific. Each panel must be headed by a retired High Court judge. You must have a youth representative, one student representative, one representative of the police force, one representative of the Human Rights Commission, I believe, and then you must have a fund for compensation of victims, the National Executive Council, I stress.
So a minister in this country, because he wants to defend the indefensible, doesn't know about that,
In August, 8 states gave their reports to the NEC. They submitted their reports to the person who asked them to set up the panel.
Yes. In any case, as a senior advocate of Nigeria, I'm sure Festus Keyamo, I don't need to educate him on this, should know that he's raising a question about jurisdiction.
Yes.
The jurisdiction of that tribunal of inquiry. And he must know that it's not something that he can just raise, in an off-the-cuff remark on television, because the jurisdiction of a judicial body speaks to the functionality, the meaning, the essence of that particular panel. And that's why it can be raised before, during, and after the sitting of that particular body. And it's not something you raise in a very frivolous manner. If you feel so concerned, he knows the place to go to. He should go to court. It's not a thing on which he can make a final statement and say, I'm a senior advocate of Nigeria. That's not how it's done.
Quite clearly.
Thank you very much.
That's all I have for you on What's Trending today. I'll see you all tomorrow.